Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool will give up a chance for a 30% discount.
I can feel death in this room. A presence. You have killed, and you will kill again.
The murderer is a schizophrenic paranoid. Anyone who kills with such frenzy surely does it in a state of temporary madness.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin, and with me as always is Aaron.
Hello.
This week, we're discussing the horror giallo classic, Deep Red by Dario
Profondo
Argento.
Rosa.
Profondo Rosso, which doesn't necessarily mean profound roses, I've learned. So I don't know.
No.
Who's to say? Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genre with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's the latest with you?
Well, this week was Holga week, so you take these plastic toy cameras and you have 7 days to take pictures with them.
So it's like the
And
Ring?
it's like the Ring, and you have to pass it on. And so
Interesting.
then you have until the end of the month to get them processed. But my pictures
Or what
are pure
happens?
crap. Then you post them. I use like a filter like this. So
Okay.
that's going to be very weird. Oh, those
That
would
is
be
weird.
awesome glasses. So I suspect I'll have nothing to upload for the contest because it looks like garbage. I shot half a roll with the lens cap on, so that's special. And then I used the pinhole panorama in my classroom. It was a 4-second exposure, so I told the kids to run around like maniacs. So there'll be like ghost images, but now I'm not sure. I shot a whole roll like that, and I'm not sure that the shutter was open. So
This is during instructional time, is what you're saying? When they're supposed to be learning things or
I
making
think
them
it's
perform tricks?
important that we teach the whole student.
I
So
see.
part of
Not
that
just the brain?
is not just the brain, but their body. They need to get up and move around. It helps.
Interesting.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
they've all fully participated because nobody wanted to be. I said, if you just stand there, you will be in the picture. But if you move when I tell you, so by the second picture, everybody was out of there like a shot. So
So it's like a threat, really,
It's like a
is
threat.
what it is.
you're going to be
Sweet
participating in art, whether you want to or not. But unless you want your mug up close and center, you better get out of your desk and start running around like I tell you.
Jesus. Boom. Boom, boom, boom.
But it's either going to be genius or pure shit. How about that? And it cost me $59 to have this film develop.
Sweet Jesus. Good
Film is
Lord, who could
not
afford it?
cheap.
No, it's not.
That's why we have that saying, stay broke, shoot film. I still have 2 rolls of 35 millimeter I still have to send off. I'm sending off to a lab where I haven't met the people, so they won't know that it's me taking terrible pictures.
It's not like it's semi-porn. You have to go in there with like a mask on so they won't know it's you.
I have a rep.
Or is
you
it?
know?
I don't know.
I'm the Rizzler. I do not want my crappiness to be known.
Fair.
I agree.
On that note, I want to talk about. I recently
Are
a little behind inside baseball.
you pulling back the
We
curtain?
pulling back. I'm opening the kimono, and what we
The
we
commode.
do is we upload our podcasts on Spotify for podcasters. Okay, and they sent me an email, me and everyone else on Earth, an email saying,
Oh, not
"Hey,
you personally?
it wasn't." Hey, I'm the vice president, K Dog, and I got some words I want to say to you. No, that basically they said, have you considered, instead of uploading just the audio track, have you considered uploading like the video? Because we already shoot the video for our YouTube uh, simulcast, if you will. Um,
Correct.
so I'm like, I will give it a shot. So it's up. Our episode, I'm thinking of ending things, is a Spotify video podcast.
Are
So
you uploading both of them now? And thanks for conferring with your partner, you son of a bitch.
it was no, basically now where I used to have to upload two separate things. Like I'd upload the audio track and then I'd upload the video track just strictly to YouTube. Now I upload the same track to two different places. So I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but
So
we'll
is
see.
there still an audio for people who don't want to look at us?
Yes. So this was a dry run on Sunday. Basically, for Spotify, it's a video podcast, but you can still listen to it on Spotify. But every other podcast provider that we use, distributor, if you will, still gets the audio version. So, for example, I use Apple Podcast, and it still popped up as an Apple Podcast. So there you go. So I know you were curious.
So we are no longer a podcast on Spotify. Is that what you're telling me?
I think on Spotify, a lot of people love Spotify. You have options now. You can listen to it or you can watch it on Spotify app.
But it's the
Everywhere
same thing.
It's
So
the same thing.
It would be I'm watching I Love Lucy on my phone, but I'm not looking at it. And now it's a podcast.
If you think of it this way.
So the video is going to be running in my pocket. I'm just not looking at it.
Imagine you were blind and you're watching I Love Lucy. Who knows what's happening on the screen? You just have to use your imagination.
Yeah,
right? Does that answer your questions?
Also,
while I was futzing around with that, so basically going even deeper, we use Zencastr for our editing and recording.
Yes.
So we have to include periodic ads for Zencastr, which I did not include on our video podcast, and the YouTube I wouldn't include it. Now I've got to include that. So now everybody gets that lovely ad, no matter what the.
But since it's a video and the ad is not a video ad, what are they looking at, a black screen, or is it just a picture of you dancing around while the?
That's an excellent question. This is excellent. So I had to create what looks like K Dog and Aaron speaking as when you when I created that trailer that also went out this week, where I added kind of. Us chatting.
Aaron had to brush that up a little bit. Yeah, it's like we're in a Godzilla film.
It definitely looks like that now. That's for sure. Courtesy of Aaron's
I don't know if you realize it needed something. I don't know if you realize we could have just recorded a video where the actual words are coming out of our mouth.
We could have, and yet we never did. And yet I've been meaning to do this for about 6 months now, and we never do. So I said, F it, I'm just going to create something. So I basically did the same thing with the Zencastr ad. So don't adjust your screens when the ad comes up.
Dude, I'm going to come up with some ads of my own with some family videos that I have.
Please do.
Well, just you wait, mister.
Well, the issue is that we had an audio trailer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all over the place. Which we've used for quite a while, but we needed a video component to go with that. Because if you go on our YouTube page, up until recently, it was still an ad for the since defunct B Movie Club. trailer. I mean, we've been doing this for 5 years, and it still had the B
No,
Movie Club
that's
up
not
there up until.
possible. Not possible.
Do the math.
No, I
52 weeks
can't.
out of the
Don't
year,
ask me to do the math. Someone tried
270
to do that
podcasts
today.
later. Yeah, good times. Anywho, this is deep, deep, deep. Aaron, give us your 30-second synopsis of Deep Red, if you'd be so kind.
And FYI, I didn't take any notes because I've seen this movie so many awesome times. I don't know about you. This is the first time I saw it completely dubbed in Italian. It has always been in English when I've seen it. When I
really?
watched it on Plex, it was entirely in Italian with English subtitles.
Even homie David Hemmings?
Even homie. He spoke beautiful Italian.
Now let me tell you how I saw it. So I was flipping around and I found on Vudu, what it's now called Fandango at Home or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
My choices are I could watch on Plex, which I hate. Plex is the
Right.
worst. Or
Which is where I
could
was.
right. Or I could rent it for $2.99 on Vudu, which I'm like, eh. Or I could buy it for $1.99 on Vudu. So I own Deep Red now. Add
And
it to
why
my
wouldn't
video
you?
collection. Why wouldn't
So-
you?
So yours is in English?
In English.
Yeah, I had only ever seen it that way, except for the time I watched it in Italy, which, of course, I'm going to mention for the 25th time. I was in Italy. I was above Florence and Fiesole at the Roman amphitheater, watching Dario Argento receive an award with a concert by Goblin, followed by Profondo Rosa, all in Italian.
That's amazing. That is amazing. When was this? Tell me again.
This was, I don't know, 12 years ago or something like that.
That's pretty
And there was like a
outstanding.
crazy 9-year-old behind me bouncing off the wall, screaming along. This is like every mother's nightmare. It's like when I had kindergarten and wanted to tell me what happened in Saw. I was looking at that. Apparently there's hill folk in Italy too.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at an Italian husband and wife. He's got his sleeves cut off his shirt. Is the white trashiest thing I ever saw in my life. And a
It's like Wrong
9-year-old,
Turn.
9-year-old screaming along through the entire movie, word for word. Ay.
That's upsetting. It's upsetting.
Upsetting. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, Profondo Rosa, it takes place in Torino. In fact, that big statue with the fountain, I went over there with our cousins when we were in Turin. So there's a pianist and his drunken friends, and they witness a murder. So, as with all Argento films, the police don't solve crimes. American or British tourists solve the crimes. So he investigates all these strange goings on. Everyone related to this psychic who was sensing wrong things are being murdered in terrible ways. Some cooked in a bathtub, some getting the stabby, some getting an axy, some plate glass in the neck. Anyway, he solves it. They start coming at him. One family member down, another family member down. David Hennings is so valuable they had to send him to space with Jane Fonda just for this, just to relax his nerves. Dildano.
That was before this, by the way, but neither here nor there. Go ahead.
I don't care how many times I've seen this. I will always think of him from Barbarella.
It's funny. I feel like I've seen this
Thousands
times.
of times.
No, not thousands. Like maybe 3 times. And the first time was when we actually covered it for the B Movie Club.
Right.
Back when Aaron started to assert her dominance on that. I'd never look. I mean, here's the thing. I had heard of Dario Argento.
Yes.
I didn't know anything about him. I'd heard of Suspiria, but knew nothing about it.
Well, let's face it. I was dating an Italian person at the
Yes.
time, so all things needed to be Italian. And why
Well,
should
and I'm
they?
not complaining. It was like, the blinds were lifted, and now I finally get to
A
see.
whole new world. Don't you dare
Absolutely.
close your eyes.
Don't you dare close your eyes, as Peebo Bryson once said. No question. No, it was a type of cinema that I was thoroughly unfamiliar with, and it was great. I saw Deep Red before I saw Suspiria. I saw Deep Red before I saw any other Dario Argento, and I feel like we do need to, occasionally go back to the well of Argento. In my mind, I think we've probably done what, 4 or 5 of his movies. Is that true, or am
Great.
I
It
over?
flies on gray velvet.
Yeah,
The bird with the
Cat of Nine
crystal
Tails.
plumage. Did we
We
do
did not
cat
do
of
Bird
nine?
of the Crystal. We did not
Oh,
do
well,
Crystal
maybe we did.
Plumage. We Go ahead.
Okay. Suspiria, both versions.
Yeah.
Profonda Rosa.
Now, yeah.
Occhi Neri.
Dark Glasses, correct.
And what is it? Four Flies on Gray Velvet. Is that
Four
it?
Flies in Great Velvet and Cat of Nine Tails.
I don't even remember
Those-
Cat of Nine Tails.
You do, because it has the immortal milk scene.
Milk?
That's
Milk! See? I mean, you can't go wrong with Dario Argento. Honestly, we need to have a spin-off, the Aaron and Kevin goes Giallo, and just do Giallo
Absolutely.
films.
The Italian Job. Just have, that's what we'll call the podcast, the Italian Job, and it's just Dario Argento films
And we'll
with
drink
Fulci.
milk at the beginning of every episode.
I've said it 1,000 times. I had never heard of Cat of Nine Tails. If you go, and you could probably Google it, watch James Franciscus, formerly of Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and he's almost poisoned by milk. You got to check it out. It is a crowning achievement.
Does not
Does not.
disappoint.
Absolutely not. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Like I said, I was in my 40s. I'm sure first time I ever heard of Deep Red. So I'm a fan. I would say I'm a fan of it now. I bought it for $1.99. What does that tell you?
That's
Okay,
it.
that's something.
Forever. That means forever.
So was that the Coliseum with Dario Argento? Was that the first time you ever saw Deep Red, or were you familiar with it previously?
I'd seen it. I think I'd actually already been to Rome to the Profonda Rosa Museum.
Ooh.
So I'd already been dabbling. I saw the Three Mothers. It was like Inferno, Suspiria, and something else. I can't remember the third one.
Opera or one of those, or Phenomena.
I've never seen Opera. Maybe it was Phenomenon, but it was like some bad bootleg on YouTube where it was like out of focus sometimes. Somebody kicked the VCR over when they recorded it off Italian TV.
Well, no, there's nothing worse than watching with Four Flies Over Gray Velvet, where suddenly during the climax it switches over to just Italian.
Oh yeah,
no subtitles, and you're like, what?
I think it's Tubi. Good. It's like Tubi for some reason has every Giallo film you could ever need, and yeah, it would flip between being dubbed to slipping into pure Italian. It's like they'd found the last copy, and to make a full copy, they had to put together pieces.
That's what it seemed to me. But no, Tubi is kind of a hidden gem. It truly is. It has everything. It has every grindhouse hidden.
Oh yeah,
totally everything.
And for free.
Everything.
Let's throw that out there.
You get some ads. You'll get the occasional ad. Problem
you
with
get
Plex,
the one ad over and over, so by the end of the film, you're sure you're never going to support the sponsor, even if it's to cure cancer. Just because now you hate it, because it stops at every pivotal point to show you the same goddamn ad.
100%. Anyway, we're 18 minutes in. Why don't we jump right into the highlights? Aaron, what do you got for Deep Red?
Dude, I mean, I gotta tell you, I was watching the beginning again with the psychic. So there's a German psychic lady. It's this forum of supernatural, whatever, occultist people. and she's picking up bad vibes in the room. There's something funky going on. And I
Right.
swear, I think her head was going to pop like that movie Scanners.
Yes.
Do you
Well,
believe that Scanners, in fact, ripped off that whole idea for the show from Profondo Rosa?
no, because no one's head explodes. So you're saying you thought her head was going to explode, and therefore it inspired Scanners 10 years later?
She was clutching her head and such. It was near
Okay.
explosion.
Interesting.
Somewhere
Interesting.
between Firestarter and Scanners.
I found it interesting. Becky watched like the thrilling conclusion with me because I was downstairs watching it today, and
Did you see
she
the
happened to
lady
walk in.
putting on her mascara?
No, that was at the
Eyeliner.
beginning. But when Daria Nicolodi gets stabbed and she's flopping down, Becky looked at her face. She's like, she looks like she has like the face of a mannequin. And I think there's something about that, and it especially true of the psychic lady, where their faces look almost like they're masks. Something about
Yes.
them, like they almost look like they have rubbery faces. I don't know if it was just an Italian thing. It was something they were doing.
It
But
was the style
that-
of the day.
It was the style. It was also a lot of drooling occurred in this movie. There was a lot of
some spittle, some bubble.
there, like more than you'd think. I mean, the psychic at the beginning when she's having her episode, literally they zoom in on her mouth, just like drooling out the water. She has a sip of water. Then later, the woman who wrote the book, Ghost Stories, whatever it is, when she gets whacked in the head, she falls down before they put her in the tub. She falls down, zoom in on her, drooling. And then, number 3, when the dude who looked like Shadow Stevens, the center square of Hollywood Squares, he has poured himself some Earl Grey tea, and he's like, oh, now he's afraid, but he took a sip first. He's like, and he's drooling out the tea as he's afraid that the killer's going to get him. The final insult is in the thrilling conclusion when the 85-year-old 4'9" killer attacks David Hemming at the end and gets her huge bulbous necklace caught in the elevator shaft, and she's about to get strangled. They zoom in on her mouth, and she spits out something while she gets decapitated. So it's a lot of drooling.
I
all
will
I'm
say that had to have been a theme. Because,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, there is no drool in any other Argento film.
Not so I'd notice. So I don't know. Who can say?
Well, and I hope you remember the little redhead girl from one of our most favorite films that we've reviewed.
What?
Frankenstein! Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, of course! The little
Who-
boy
who
and
the-
the little girl. The little boy and the little girl. Remember there's the little redhead girl?
Oh, yes. I think I knew that once upon a
The
time.
Udo Kier classic film? For sure.
Now, is she's also psychic in this movie? Is that what's
No,
happening?
She just broke in to the schoolhouse and was rooting around. She's just a kid who gets into trouble, so they like lock her in the back closet. So she's rooting through stuff.
That's what it was. Because the dad smacked her, and I thought she did some psychic stuff, but no, it's because she
His
killed
head
a
didn't
lizard
pop
with
either.
That's right. But she took like a needle, and you see like a lizard has been impaled by the little girl. So she's just like a psycho
Well,
in training.
Well, when her parents used to live in Transylvania, they saw some shit.
They saw some shit, no question. Sweet Jesus.
Ay, caram.
No, you talked about this in your 30-second summary, but I love, and I was telling Becky about this, I love the kind of, I don't know if it's a cliche, the idea of, I have witnessed something. I have witnessed a murder, but I can't leave it up to the cops to solve this one.
No.
I gotta handle.
I gotta get
I'm
to
a
the bottom
part-time
of this.
composer. I'm a part-time composer and pianist, not an engineer, like the crazy woman keeps
I
accusing me
love
of.
that. Oh, an engineer and you play piano.
He's like, no. And he, like, again, it was like I think his neighbor was killed, but not like his best friend or something. And now he's on the case. Somebody asked him, it's like, why are you doing this? He's like, well, it's like a puzzle. You know, I'm trying to solve a puzzle. There's a killer. There's a murderer on the loose.
He don't
And you're trying to solve this. Clearly not.
He doesn't have a life, so he has to busy himself solving crime.
He's got to solve crimes. I mean, but it's like it happens so often in movies that and the audience just accepts it. Where in real life, okay, if I said, Aaron, I just witnessed a horrible murder, I've got to solve this case. I gotta break the case. I'm taking some time off from work, Aaron.
First, weeks, I'm going to ask you 1,000 questions, and then I figured your wife will deal with you after that.
But you'd have questions. You wouldn't just be like, okay, you go investigate.
That's right.
Good times.
I'll just follow you around with a bottle of liquor and make weird comments as you try to investigate. Just like our friend's little helper.
Just like our friend's little helper. I don't know what that means, but okay, fair enough.
His old buddy from the conservatory. Who, spoiler alert, acts like he's the killer, but he's not the killer.
Carlo. Yeah. He has a drunken buddy, Carlo.
We'll call him Carlo Rossi.
Carlo Rossi, absolutely. He's always sitting around drunk, contemplating suicide. The entire GD movie. And then it's revealed, or so we think, that he's the murderer. That he's the one who's been killing everybody all along.
Yeah.
But of course, if you've been paying attention, you know that's impossible. And they kind of, he has that moment. You have that moment in the climax where David Hemming is like standing in the middle of this Italian square going, just thinking. This is me, for the audio listeners, this is me just thinking now. For a good, 5 minutes, just thinking, and then he goes, well, wait a minute.
See, if you were watching the video now, you could have seen Kevin stroking his beard. This is what you'll get from our YouTube and now Spotify video feed.
Well, people don't know this. My undergraduate degree was in drama. So there was a lot of, in the theater, there was a lot of...
Musical theater.
It was not musical theater.
I saw the size 13 tap shoes abandoned in my old bedroom in mom's house.
Yes. I had tap shoes to get my degree. You did have to do a little soft shoe, if you will.
Were white. Was that a choice?
Okay, it was a choice because I have large feet, and that's what they had at the store. It was basically like my Capizios were from the Barry Manilow collection. So
because you're a Fanilow.
You better believe it. I didn't even know. But when I put those shoes on, it was like I was coming home for the first time. Like all the world's secrets were laid bare to me. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Point being is that at that moment, because he's thinking, he realizes it couldn't have been Carlo. Because Carlo was standing next to me when we heard the scream and watched the woman get murdered in the window.
Exactly.
So, the reveal. Well, and here's the thing. I've seen this a few times. So I don't remember all the beats because I haven't seen it that many times. But I definitely remember one scene that first time I saw this, I knew that was a woman standing in the little alcove. I saw it immediately because there's a crucial moment where David Hemmings, our British protagonist, is running down the hallway of this murdered woman. And there's all these weird pictures. And there's a little alcove. And to me, I guess we were supposed to think that it was a picture of a weird woman standing there. But to me, it looked like what it was, a mirror of a weird woman standing opposite it that he didn't notice until later. Then it's like, oh shit, that was you. That wasn't a weird photograph. It was a weird woman. It was a weird little, sweet Jesus. So good times. What else you got? Anything? Any thoughts or feelings?
There was one point where there was a lady, and here's the most fascinating part. Most of these people killed realize that there is someone in their house. There is a lady who lives out in the middle of nowhere, literally comes home to see a doll hanging from a noose. And she hears someone is in her fucking house. So she goes out to see if her friend's still there. No, she left. So she just went back into her house.
There-
That doesn't seem like good thinking, Lincoln.
That's poor planning, to say the least. To say you're right. She comes, she runs out to catch her friend. Hey, Sally, or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
And she sees
Hey,
the bus.
old decrepit lady, come save me from this murder. It was
True.
literally like Straganona going off to collect wolfbane or eggs or whatever.
Exactly. It was full blown Straganona. But I have to say,
With the Italian jam.
I'm not going back in that house. If I'm hoofing it down the street after the Greyhound, that's what I'm doing. Because the old woman got on the bus. I'm not going back in that goddamn house. But we have to talk about that, first of all, because that was the most convoluted plot point in the world. Like, our hero learns about a story. Like, this woman wrote this book of like famous hauntings and shit around Italy or whatever it is. And one of the stories they focus on is the house of the crying boy. Okay? So he goes, people have talked about hearing weird child music from a murder when these murders occur. That's it right there. I thought you were playing a recording for a second there.
Is it live or is it Memorex?
It is. So he goes, well, shit, that sounds just like this weird legend. So he goes to try to talk to her, but the killer finds out that they're hearing about this weird legend of the house of the crying child and murders the woman who wrote the book. Okay? So that's...
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Please.
Is that where she goes into her closet? All she sees is an eyeball staring back at her, and
Yes.
she can't get the hell out of her house in time to not get chopped up?
Correct. 100%. Well, and that's the thing. One moment you know who the killer is, you have to think she's strong. She is strong for a little abuelita. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not joking. If she's 5 feet tall, you know, I mean, that would be something. She's a little dwarf woman, is essentially what she is.
She's Straganona.
She is absolutely Straganona, and she's 85 if she's a day, right? So you see her overpower people over and over and over again. Like
David Hemmings is not exactly Dave Bautista. He's not much bigger than she is.
Fair. But she takes, Shadow Stevens was at least a deuce and a half.
Yeah.
Right? He had a big boiler hanging low. Now, granted, he's not a power lifter. They didn't show him practicing judo or something.
Well, she ain't a power lifter. I think it's the surprise, the element of surprise. That's how she gets him every time.
And that's the other thing about the Dario Argento movies. There's a lot of scenes where somebody goes, I know who the killer is, but I'm not going to tell anybody.
I'm not going to tell you over the phone. Just give me about 30 minutes. I got to feed the cat. And I got to get some gas in my tank, and I'll be right over.
Now, at least in this movie, Shadow Stevens is on the horn, and nobody's home. So he's trying to tell the story. But that's the thing. It's like, in the end, whatever they find out is of no value. It doesn't help anything, right? The old woman who writes the book, she writes some shit in the steam. Like, what could you write?
What the hell she wrote?
She wrote, all they revealed to us is like something, it was in Italian, but they translated it. It is all they showed was it is.
Oh no.
Right? It is.
I have to say that was a cool scene. As she's trying to write in the steam, the window opens and all the steam clears out and like all dries up. That was kind of a cool scene.
Well, look, it's beautifully shot. It's beautifully shot. And I love, and I've talked to you about this before, there is some kind of special spice, special flavor to the kind of poorly dubbed Italian movie that I gotta have. You know what I'm saying? And they do this like Fulci does this as well, where it's like the main protagonist is going to be English speaking, probably British, probably from an unsuccessful British
A B
sitcom.
movie career. Perhaps they started off strong in their early days,
Correct.
but over time, things weren't working out for them.
100%. But they were popular in Britain and therefore kind of matriculated over to Italy. So like, oh, well, you're kind of a big star somewhere 20 years ago.
Once
Why
upon
don't
a
you
time in Hollywood, friend. Once upon a time in Hollywood.
100%. So they're the protagonist, and the rest of the cast is Italian, speaking poor English. Speaking poor English, you hope. Sometimes it's clear they're just speaking Italian. Evan,
They're just speaking
roll it.
Italian.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's what they used to do. It's like, you just speak whatever language you speak. We'll catch it all in the dub.
Right. When you pause, I know it's my turn to speak. That's basically what it is. So he's and he's good. I like him because he kind of he really puts his body on the line, Hemmings, to get this done. There's a scene where he's literally hanging from the side of the side of the building and dropping. There are no stuntmen in this. And this is Italy, okay? If we're doing this,
There's
doing
no
this.
OSHA. There's no stuntman.
There's no
That's
net,
brother.
right?
There's no net.
There's no trapeze. You just better hang on tight, bruh. You better.
I often wonder when I'm over there, how many people have just fallen off this cliff right here where I am? How many people have fallen off this wall? I feel like I should look down. There should be like 3 or 4 tourists at the bottom.
Absolutely, there's just skeletons down there. But anyway, the legend of the House of the Crying Boy. I guess we're supposed to think that when the place was abandoned, that the Carlos was still hanging out there, right? Because he's the one crying. Is that what we're supposed to think? Speechless. It's impossible to understand.
That is an interesting take. I think it's really weird that, spoiler alert, they just sealed up a wall. I mean, at one point, once Daddy's a potato chip, I think you could probably just take him out now.
Well, no, that whole thing makes no sense.
Or was he crying from that night? But we don't really know what the legend of the crying boy is, except they can hear a boy crying.
Right. People walking by from time to time would hear
like it happened that
boy.
One night. Maybe. I can walk down my neighborhood. I got apartments behind me. I guarantee you, I walk down there, I'm going to hear a crying boy.
So is that now the apartment of the crying boy? Is that what we're going to call it?
It's the appointment of the bad children.
I mean, you think it would have to happen a few times before it gains like notoriety and becomes in a published book of
and you think,
scary shit.
I mean, how old's Carlo? 35? It's hard to tell. People look so much older back in the old days.
70s Italy, right? Who knows?
70s Italy. I don't know if he's 30, if he's 50. Maybe he was 26. Nobody knows.
17.
I mean, what does it take to make a published legend?
Well, no,
it happened 3 times, or is this just folklore?
And this is not a shack in the haunted forest, right? This is a huge mansion, which seems to be in the middle of metropolitan Italy, right?
It is. It's in Torino.
I mean, so what we're supposed to think, and if you haven't seen the movie, you're like, what the hell are they talking about? It is madness.
It's a beautiful house. It has like all these Art Deco features.
It's huge.
But at the same time, it's like decomposing.
Right. There's been some disrepair. The grand reveal is we're supposed to think that the little boy, Christmas Day, flipped out and murdered his father because his father was evil, is what we're supposed to think. And it affected him throughout his life, and now it's turned him into a serial killer, and people are like, if they ever find out, he'll have to kill to protect his secret.
Because he's tortured, he's drinking, but we discover it's only because he's closeted homosexual.
No, I've literally sitting here, I had totally forgotten that little subplot. Yes, David Hemming goes to visit him.
He has a lover who looks exactly like him.
So it's
That
kind of
was
a
very bizarre.
Liberace kind of thing.
It's a Liberace situation.
You're right. So that's what it was. Closet, but not closeted to a degree like maybe his mom doesn't know, but he's clearly living with this woman or this man, this person.
No, it's a man. Yeah.
It was played by a female actress, but it was yes. But they gave him gave her a little peach fuzz
Dude,
and a
that
short
does not
haircut.
look like a woman at all.
Well,
That's fascinating.
It's fascinating. So that you're right. He was
that up. I cried bullshit on that.
He was tortured by the murder of his father, but the reveal is that his mother, like Norma Bates or whatever, was already crazy. Like the father was like, "Honey, I love you, but you're batshit, and we got to take you back.
We got to put you back in the asylum.
We got to put you back in the asylum." And she's like, "I ain't going back to the asylum." And he's like, "Well, okay." And for his trouble, he takes a steak knife to the back. So it was the mother who killed the dad. Now, I guess what we're thinking is after that, they picked up 6'2", 250-pound dad and threw him in a chair and then sealed off that room, like sealed off the windows, like wallpapered over the door, and then moved out? Is that what we're supposed to think?
That is bizarre.
Moved out. They could afford a gigantic mansion, but they moved out to just, I guess, an apartment in the greater Turin, who's to say, and just abandoned that place.
Yeah, or to just move back in. I mean, how about the fact that he was able to take down the wall with like a hammer in his fingertips?
First, it's just his fingernails, because this is a grand reveal. He goes and investigates the haunted house of the crying child. I guess one evening the child was upset. He notices something about the plaster and he starts picking at it with his fingernail, revealing a little picture. And then he gets a piece of glass off the floor and just literally scrapes it all off, and it reveals like a childish picture of a child holding a knife and like a scary man with like a big old wound on his chest.
I mean, as we say, Carlo is about, 30, 35.
Correct.
How did we go from that moment? So nobody else died and all of a sudden she's on a spree? Or has she been training for this? Or is half of Torino RIP?
That's the question. It seems to be that I guess the medication's been working for the last 30 years. Like she hasn't killed anybody. But she
Carla forgot to refill the prescription?
100%. Like sisters. Remember? It was like you're supposed to take 2 pills, not just the one, and now your split personality is coming out. Yeah. And she's fine until she happens to attend some kind of conference on psychic activity, and the Ukrainian psychic sits there and goes, "Oh shit, I'm picking up."
She's Ukrainian?
She said, I believe they said she was Ukrainian, but then she only speaks German. So maybe she can speak multiple languages.
All right.
But the psychic says, "I cannot see into the future. I cannot tell you what happened in the past. All I can do is sometimes see what's happening right now," which seems kind of a lesser skill, if I'm being honest.
Because I can see what's happening right now, too.
Right.
It's called seeing.
Seeing. I am a seer of things right in front of me.
That's right.
So the psychic detects...
It's like a lesser X-Men. I can see things that happened 5 minutes ago.
I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. Anywho, so that sends her on a wingding. So she goes and murders the psychic before the psychic, because it's always like, "Oh, I'm seeing some shit. Oh my God." And then she's like, "Oh, and I know who did it. I'll see you guys tomorrow." "No, you won't. You'll be dead." So she kills her. And seemingly that was her only plan, was going to kill that woman. But then David Hemmings, because she could have gotten the drop on David Hemmings that same night, but she didn't.
David Hemmings was in her house. She had him all by herself.
Multiple
on
times.
At least one occasion, yeah.
She could have slipped some rat poison into his tea if she wanted to.
Maybe she was, but he was like, "No, thank you.
No.
I am not thirsty.
No, grazie." Is basically what he was saying. No, grazie. But that's the other thing. So they kept showing what was clearly a man wearing like a leather 70s trench coat and in a leather fedora walking by.
And the
Now,
most amazing gloves with the zipper down the front, which I desperately wish I could own a pair.
because that's for those of you who aren't familiar with this genre, giallo is Italian for yellow, which is used to describe kind of a pulp fiction
Yeah.
that was going on in Italy at that time, kind of these crime fictions. So that's what these movies kind of are. They're horror, but it's much more about the mystery, right? It's horror in the sense there's a killer and
And
visceral killing,
nudity and blood.
a lot of blood.
Especially Argento, there's always some crazy way. Someone gets their head almost popped off and then popped by a car. You get a lady decapitated with a necklace. You got someone who's like boiled like a hot dog until she splits. I
Yes.
mean, you got crazy clowns. You got all kinds of things.
You
You
do.
got stuff you didn't know you needed, and here they are.
And here they are. Now you just skated right by. When Carlo gets the drop on David Hemmings with a gun, the cops show up at just the right time and blast him. They shoot him, but he's okay enough that he scales the wall, and the cops are like, "There he is," and they just start shooting. Blam, blam. I'm like, are they in a residential neighborhood? What is happening? There could be an orphanage across the street. What are we doing?
There's different It's a different culture.
It's a different, clearly. So Carlo jumps the wall and does not notice a big old garbage truck cruising by. He bumps into it. He's like, whoa, what's going on? And then this is a garbage truck thing where they literally have just a hook, a big old hook that's dragging
on
on
the trash cans. They just have a giant hook they drag behind.
Like a crook, like a shepherd with his flock. This thing comes out and tangles around Carlo's leg and drags him 100 blocks. I mean, literally, they keep cutting to the garbage truck drivers. 12 goddamn miles. You know, they cut to the garbage truck drivers laughing and listening to music or doing whatever they're doing as they're dragging,
swinging around, banging into
Oh God, that was best. That was best. They turn the corner, smash him into the curb, like fling him around. Finally, I don't know how they realized we've been dragging some poor bastard for however long, and so they stop the car. But Carlo's just laying in the middle of the street, and here comes a frickin' Maserati or something. Just bad timing all around. Just crunch like a watermelon. Just explode like a Gallagher show.
Personal splat pop.
It was the Sledge-O-Matic from Gallagher. Just explosion. Of course, my wife is sitting there as we're finishing our dinner as the explosion occurs. So that was great.
And she's like,
she was thrilled.
My.
She was thrilled. Let me tell you. And again, he's not even the goddamn killer. He was just a poor closeted homosexual who drinks
with
too
a gun.
much.
He drinks too much.
100%.
Plays the piano.
He's a very talented guy. He was troubled. That scene, they should just ended it with that. I don't give a damn who the killer is. That should have been it.
That was the apex.
That was like it reminds me, and we keep calling back to these other Argento things. For Flies, when the blonde woman who's revealed to be the killer, spoiler alert, and she's just like, I'm out of here, jumps in the car, and then just proceeds to get into a car accident, a slow motion car accident where she's decapitated for no goddamn reason. It's like, look, the break works.
There wasn't enough blood in that film, so they
100%.
needed to throw it in at the end. I was like, this really doesn't have much going on. Okay, here we go.
There it is.
The slow motion decapitation in the car.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. 100%. Not since The Omen.
And I'm not a slasher person, but somehow it doesn't bother me in Argento because it just is so bizarre and so over the top.
Well, and here's the thing. Argento, and frankly, a lot of the Italian filmmakers of this kind of genre, it's never about the plot. If you try to dissect the plot, you're just going to wrap yourself in a knot and be like, I don't know what this means or what it's going about. It's all about the visuals. It's all about kind of character study. It's not about does A plus B equal C. Forget it. Throw the script out the window. It's much more about kind of those bright visuals. And why is it called Deep Red? Because of the sangre, the blood, right? The blood. The blood. And frankly, when the old woman is decapitated, you don't really see it. You just got, well, I guess you kind of do. They zoom in on her neck as the chain goes, and then suddenly a puddle, and you see a reflection of David Heavens going, oh shit, and then it just credit rolls. Like,
Credit
we're good.
rolls and head rolls.
When the head rolls, the credits roll. That's how it is.
I mean, that's when he's really at his finest, when he comes up with these clever ways of killing these people in this oh so graphic.
Another accident, by the way.
I'm surprised in our Tarantino book we read for book club that there's no Argento mentioned at all.
No, you're right. You're right. It seemed like he really didn't talk that much about horror in Cinema Speculation, the Tarantino book we did on our book club.
Yeah.
It was much more of kind of that those genre picks where it's like, you know, Joe or whatever. One of those things where it's like, here's a mean, pissed off guy, Vietnam vet on the warpath from the 70s. Like there were a lot
look at Django Unchained, where they literally just had buckets of blood and they're like throwing them on the walls. That's 100%. What reminds me of Argento.
The shootout at the end of Django Unchained is chef's kiss. It is so.
I was like, I mean, there was some very disturbing violence.
Yes.
But for a while, there wasn't much going on. I was like, oh, this is different. Then I was like, oh, okay.
Now we got it. Now I'm in. No, we've talked about it before. I always feel like I love Tarantino, truly. And there are moments in every one of his films where it's like, I want to stand up and applaud, truly. There are also moments in all of his films where I'm like, I would have been happy if that scene was cut or that moment was cut. I didn't need that level of violence or kind of upsetting, you know.
The beginning of Django Unchained.
Absolutely.
That was very upsetting.
It's rough. I mean, the same thing of Inglourious Bastards. There are moments that are like, I don't know if I'm feeling that. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I just posted a TikTok on Insta of a scene from Pulp Fiction where they're cleaning up the brain in the back of the car. It's hilarious, but it is absolutely kind of that thing where it's like, here's this horribly upsetting moment that is played for laughs, and it's funny. It's Samuel L. Jackson at his finest. So
that is an amazing film, and I have not seen it in years.
You need to
gotta get the
GIMP. Bring out the GIMP.
Absolutely. that is upsetting.
That is upsetting. Anything else about Profondo Rosa?
Dude, if you have not seen it, young people, gets to it. To it.
Go on Tubi.
It's just a gateway. Sure. Honestly, on Tubi, if you watch an Argento film, up next will be another one. And the next thing you know, it's 4 a.m. and you're just going to have to call in sick for work.
If you ever get COVID, and I hope you don't, but if you do, the day number 2, where you're starting to feel a little bit better, but you're still highly contagious, lock the door, pop on the Tubi, and just let the Argento roll over you.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it roll.
100%. Shall we go behind the scenes?
Let's go.
Let's see. Co-writer Bernardino Zapponi said the inspiration behind the murder scenes came from him and Dario Argento thinking of painful injuries that the audience could relate to. Basically
like,
not.
Yeah, I could see myself boiling my face like a hot dog. I could see that happening.
Well, they're saying not everyone knows the pain of being shot by a gun, but everyone at one point has accidentally struck furniture or been scalded by hot water. That was
or stabbed by Stregonona.
Oh, with a huge cleaver. 100%. The close-up shots of the killer's hands, clad in black leather gloves, were performed by director Dario Argento himself. So there you go.
I thought that old woman had hairy hands.
She did. Her knuckles. There's a moment we didn't even talk about when Shadow Stevens goes in to visit the crime scene where there's the little old like lady who's like, well, the cops have been here. I'm going to start cleaning up. The murder just occurred. You're cleaning up the bloody fingerprints from the bathroom? Maybe we should wait a little bit. What do you think? I mean, the homeowner's dead. I think you got time.
The police are always portrayed so terribly in these Italian films.
Oh, 100%. Well, they're basically non-existent in this one, except when they're shooting up the neighborhood. In one scene, David Hemmings walks past the Blue Bar at night, and the bar is styled after the famous painting Nighthawks by Edward Hopper. I actually noticed that. Did you notice that?
No, I did not.
You should go back and check it out.
Maybe on my next spin.
After the international success of Dario Argento's next film, Suspiria, Profondo Rosso was re-released in Japan under the title Suspiria 2, even though it has no connection to it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. The role of Carlo's male transvestite lover, Massimo Ricci, was actually played by actress Geraldine Hooper.
Isn't that interesting? I just looked her up. She is an interesting looking gal.
She is, no question. I think she was, well, I mean, I was going to say, she was obviously dubbed. Like, the voice was not her own
Everybody
voice,
was dubbed in the version I saw.
100%. Everybody's dubbed. According to Dario Argento, the Deep Red script was more than 500 pages long. When his father,
there was that much dialogue.
When his father and brother read the script, they were shocked at its length. They were afraid the audiences wouldn't understand what Dario's intentions were. They thought parts of it were almost too cryptic, so Dario shortened it to 321 pages.
Just pulled some
which is still far
out.
Too long. There's a scene when David Hemmings and Daria Nicolodi are arm wrestling for some bizarre reason.
That was bizarre. She kicked his ass, so let's
she
give it
did
that.
Multiple times. It was like over the top.
I didn't even know Italians arm wrestled. Is that racist of me?
They called it Indian wrestling, which I'd never heard before. So I don't understand.
My version of Indian wrestling I learned from a Mormon production of Tom Sawyer, and that was the one where you wrap your feet around each other and try to flip each other.
Oh, well, there you go. Anyway, that they rehearsed that scene over 70 times.
That seems excessive.
It does indeed.
Does he keep beating her or what?
They just sucked at it, I guess, because they didn't do it correctly. You don't do it like this. You do thumbs. Right. You know what I mean? You link your thumbs when you do it.
So they tried to film a scene for a thing that nobody knew how to do.
That's correct.
They could have done like 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
Yes, they should have done thumb wrestling. 100%. The film was originally entitled La Tigre dai Denti a Schiavola, which means
the tiger. Say it again.
La Tigre dai Denti a Schiavola.
Denti is teeth, right?
Yeah.
And what's the last word?
The saber-toothed tiger is what it was called. But much to Dario Argento's annoyance, other directors started using their own kind of similar animal-themed titles. So he decided to go in a different direction.
Well, Cat o' Nine Tail had nothing to do with a cat o' nine tail, so
they never
it seems
do.
Perfect. The titles never. Well, dark glasses. She wore dark glasses.
She did wear dark glasses. 100%.
I'm blind.
You talked about this. The story is set in Rome, but it was all shot in Turin.
Yeah.
And Dario Argento's longtime partner, Daria Nicolodi, played the female protagonist in this movie. And she would appear in...
Daria
and Dario. She would appear in, if not play significant roles in Dario's next 5 films until their relationship ended. And
very Woody Allen.
It is. Very much so.
Is that Asia Argento's mother?
It is. There you go. I think that's all we need to know. Let's look at the cast and crew, shall we? We talked about this many, many times. Written and directed by Dario Argento. You know him from such things as Deep Red, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Tenebrae, and Phenomena, and other things, Suspiria. The list goes on.
See, you're already making our list. 'Cause there's a couple of those I haven't seen. I only saw half of The Bird with a Crystal Plumage, so I have to go back.
I've seen none of it. I did see Tenebrae, though, on Joe Bob.
And
I enjoyed it. Thought it was good.
all right.
David Hemmings played Marcus Daly, the the pianist turned investigator. You know him from such things as Blow Up in 1966.
Oh, I want to see
Barbarella
that too.
playing Dildano in 1968.
Dildano.
Deep Red in 1975. And he was in Gladiator in 2000 playing Cassius.
I've never seen Gladiator.
Really? Ridley Scott?
No.
Let's see. Dario Nicolodi played Gianna Brezzi. You know her from such things as Phenomena, playing Frau Bruckner in 1985.
Now we gotta see it with the Frau Bruckner.
Frau Blucher. Deep Red, 1975. Tenebrae, 1982. The property is no longer a theft, which seems like a poor translation of something in Italian from 1973. Property is no longer a theft. Interesting.
I'm putting that in Google Translate.
Anybody else in the cast you want to know about?
The little redhead girl.
What was her name? I don't even remember.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's hopeless. I don't know. It's hard to say. There's a bunch of people.
Is it called La Proprietà?
Yeah, that's it.
La proprietà non è più un furto.
100%. Let's look at the.
I'm fluent. We just put that out there.
You're fluent. Let's take a look at the ratings, shall we? Deep Red, currently on Rotten Tomatoes, 93%.
100%. Not surprised.
No, 93%.
Okay.
And do you know what the audience gave it?
100%.
85.
Well, that's still good.
Not bad. Let's look at the top critics. Vincent Canby of the New York Times says, I don't think that Dario Argento, the director, meant to distance us from the action in this way. He's simply a director of incomparable incompetence. Boom!
Ooh.
Canby was spitting fire.
I don't even know what that meant. Do you feel
not
distant
good.
from the film?
I can't explain it. It's hopeless.
It's a phenomenon.
Literally. Linda Gross from the Los Angeles Times says director Dario Argento provokes excruciating suspense but gets carried away with bloody flourishes. As ever, Hemmings is awfully convincing.
The bloody flourishes are the best part.
They're the best part.
And
100%. 100%.
Oh dear.
Aaron, what is your rating of Profondo Rosso?
Dude, 4 out of 5 dildanos in space.
I'm going to give it 3.75 drools.
Cups of drool.
All of the people suspected of the murder are killed accidentally. I just want to throw that out there yet again. Okay? Even the old woman gets decapitated accidentally.
So it's really only... No, wait a minute.
Oh, I guess it wasn't an
What the hell are you talking about?
Well, she...
First of all, the psychic got pushed through a plate glass window. Then the old woman... stabbed that lady and then boiled her.
I said the people we thought were the murderers
were
killed accidentally. But even that's not true because she gets her huge necklace tangled in the elevator, and homie just reaches up and hits the down button.
Exactly.
And that was
Boom.
the end of her.
It
He
was a
seemed
good
very
theory,
upset.
though. It's a good theory, though.
Yeah, that lasted about 5 seconds. Oh, sweet Jesus. Any last thoughts of Deep Red?
If you haven't seen it, you need to. Now's the time.
Now is the time, for God's
Deep
sake.
dive Giallo. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. We watched Dark Glasses, which was the more recent, just a couple years ago, by
Yeah.
Dario Argento, and not quite as good. I
Not
think it's-
quite as good.
You just
Still
had to be
enjoyed
there.
it, but not quite as good.
Not quite as good. You got to get that good 70s Dario. in my
Dude,
opinion.
yes.
That's
And
the
check
good
out
Dario.
Suspiria, another thing. Whoever thought of having a door that just opens to a bottomless pit of coat hangers and ripwire
Only Dario.
at a ballet school?
As one does. Sweet Jesus. So thank you very much. We are across the social interwebs, whatever it is. We're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, all the other fun places. You could be watching our videos right now. So good times. You can also email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at
Gmail.
We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So, like, share, rate, and review, won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
I am. Oh my God. I don't
Who are
know.
you?
Who are you? What are you doing? I am the Cult of Aaron on Instagram. Join the cult.
Ooh la la. As you know, we like to include favorite quotes, comments, questions from our friends across the interwebs. Aaron, who you got?
Well, Fester Trim wrote in again, and I have to say he is again 100% correct because he, of course, agrees with me 100% that we, in fact, need to do It's Alive 3, Island of the Alive. Right on, Fester.
It's on the list. No, we'll bring our buddy Leo back to discuss Island of the Alive at some point. So there you go. Good times had by all. Next week, we're going to be doing the Immortal Classic Burnt Offerings with Oliver Reed and Karen Black. All sorts of crazy shit going down. So check that out.
Burgess Meredith.
Lovely Burgess. Lovely Burgess
and
Meredith.
Betty Davis, if I recall.
Is Betty Davis in this one? She's got Betty Davis eyes?
She
that what you're saying?
got Betty Davis eyes. She got Karen Black eyes.
She's got Karen Black. That's not a compliment. Sadly. You can watch Burnt Offerings on Tubi with ads. What was I just telling you people? You can also watch
Tubi
it.
needs to sponsor us, man. I'm telling you.
Pluto TV with ads. And I think that's about it. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube or something like that.
Did we talk about that there's a prequel to Rosemary's Baby? It's either coming out or just came out. Yeah. It's like an older
with Mia Farrow?
No, but it's supposed to take place like in the apartment before they move in. Strange neighbors and all.
With the Castavets?
With the Castavets, yes.
So send in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions about Burnt Offerings. And we may.
You know I will.
We may talk about it on the show. And of course, we're going to be going on our friend Ed's podcast, the Film Effect Pod, to talk about it even deeper.
Apartment 7A, and it's on Paramount Plus. It's there now.
Okay. Well, I'll add that to my list. So.
And all the rest.
Thank you very much, and be well.
I say good day.